Okay, we are on. Yeah, today was some kind of funny day, and it was married with a lot of technical problems. Yeah. Oh, somebody got married with Okay, we are on. Yeah, today was some kind of funny day, and it was married with a lot of technical problems. Yeah. Oh, somebody got married with Okay, we are. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. As I said, it was a marriage with plenty of problems. The problems are continued, but doesn't matter. We can overcome it. Okay, guys. I can see we got some viewers, and I'm pretty sure there will be more viewers. We continue with our new format, which is angel investors interview, angels investor interview, and we have Berg Moe from Norway today, from Oslo. Hi Berg, how are you doing today?
Hello, thank you for having me. No, it feels good to be on the show.
Yeah. Great. Nice to hear you as our guest, and a very important guest, and we hope we will have today very interesting insights from Oslo about how the angel investing is going there and how the startup community is developing.
I will be happy to tell you more about that. But first of all, I have to say that if you don't know, I'm a big fan of Ukraine and Eastern Europe. I just came home from Wolf Summit in Warsaw, which was kind of amazing. I only have been to Kyiv 3 times, maybe 4 times. I'm not sure, but at least 3 times. You have me because I want to go back there as well. No, I can tell you a little bit more about what's happening in Norway at this problem, actually, to get the investor for a startup. It's getting better, but it's kind of slow getting better, if you know what I mean. There are some wealthy individuals who now are starting to invest in startups, but we still have a problem in Norway because the taxation system here is set up in a way that the best thing you can do here is to invest in property. And the worst thing I ever said was that I don't want to invest in property because everybody who has invested in property here in Norway, they have done a lot of money, let's say the last 20 years. So because of the tax system, all the money goes into property and very little money go into to investing. But it's booming entrepreneurial community. It's a lot of startups coming up. It's also people coming in. Like today, I had a meeting with one guy from Moscow who was here, who wanted to set up a business. There are also people from the Baltics, and also you have people from Ukraine. So it's like it's a bubbling scene right now here in Oslo, I have to say. But it's also interesting things happening like all over Europe, and for sure in the US, you know. So I've been in New York this summer setting up a project there, which was kind of fun. Another thing that's happening right now in Europe, which I think is interesting also for you guys, is that in 2002, I started something called Seed Forum together with a guy called Cosmo, which is a very famous guy in the Norwegian entrepreneurial community. We started something called Seed Forum, and it's been developing. So now it's in more than 40 countries, and it's actually building a huge innovation center at Maidan, basically. So they are renovating, 1,200 square meters there as we speak. So when you finish here, you can go down there and say hi to Dimitri, see how it's going to be. So no, it's an interesting time now to be entrepreneur. I consider myself most entrepreneur and a little bit investor. That's the way it turned out. But I'm always an entrepreneur. I always have my own projects.
Great. Can you share a little bit more about how you came to the investors actually? What was your path from starting from entrepreneur or probably employee to the investor? And what was your key success from this path?
Oh, yeah. Basically, most of the time I've been investing in my own project, project that I've been kind of 100% control of. But the last years I've also been involved in projects where I don't owe, let's say, 100% of the company. I can also go in and take smaller portions of the company. And I think in a way I've been like forced to go in that direction, because 30 years of experience and I've raised a lot of money to many projects in years. There's a kind of demand for that kind of competence, because many of the startups who are coming up now, they have never raised money. And they don't understand how difficult it is, because it's a very tough process. You know, it's like one of the toughest things you can do. You know, it's tougher than selling a washing machine, I can tell you that. You know, it's like, I mean, you really have to put a lot of effort into that. So I've been in a way forced into that, you know, giving advice, and now like also investing and also taking share of companies because of the competence I put into the project as well. So that's been the route. I started basically selling garlic when I was 10 years old, and I started a rock band when I was 18, which were very successful, but all the way up in the north of Norway, a kind of small community up there. We were rock stars. So that's how I started. But I've been an entrepreneur basically since I was 18 years old, as I see it.
Rockband, very interesting. I heard about Rockband. It was 1983, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, well,
Rockstar.
Yeah, well, I'm not rockstar. Yeah, so obviously, it was your soul in it. But as an investor, did you make any money?
I have lost more money than I have earned on investments. You know, if you know what I mean. I would say that maybe I'm one of the people in Norway who lost most on small projects, basically. But I also earn money, you know, during the years. So it's kind of that combination. I don't do what I do because of the money. You know, maybe I should start being more careful about that. I'm doing this because I think it's fun. I love working with entrepreneurs. I love the energy which in the project. So I see on every given day I'm 30 minutes plus, and I can be 5 minutes minus, if you know what I mean. So it's a roller coaster, and but hopefully, you know, we have some interesting projects now that can also be an exit opportunity. Let's say the next year, the next 2 years. Which could basically, be the money that I need to invest even more, because that's the way I've done it all the time.
I'm asking the same question everyone, because everyone's answer is slightly different. We're talking with you and calling you angel investor. Angel, what is for you angel investor?
I can tell you the difference. It's very simple. It's like you don't only put money into the project. You also put your energy and your soul, and you go in there and you work with the entrepreneurs, and not necessarily on a day-to-day basis, but very close to that. And so you're not just like throwing money on good ideas and see what's happening. You engage, and you engage with your network, your competence, with what you have learned before, maybe the key things that you can contribute to a project. Like from my side, it's like network, for instance, because I know a lot of money, a lot of people. I mean, so that's the core thing. You know, it's not just a money investment. It's something where you also put your heart and soul into the project. That's very important if you want to be a successful angel investor. So that's for sure.
Are you in startup community? For how many years are you ruling the startup community?
Well, I would say regarding startup community, it's starting in 2000 when I was in Trondheim. We started up something called First Tuesday, which ended up as a kind of global movement. And I did Trondheim, and we were like 350 people up there in 99 and 2000 on these events. And Trondheim is not a big city, you know, it's a kind of small city in Norway, but have a very, very strong university environment. So then I started this community building, and when I then moved to Oslo, we continued doing that. And also Seed Forum, when we started that in 2002, it was all about bringing entrepreneurs and investors together and talk. So, and I've done it after that. For instance, now I have the Entrepreneurs Club in Norway, which is a Facebook group, but there's more than 6,000 active members. It's a very, very active group. So now we are transforming that into a more formalized club with a web page and member deals and stuff like that. So I don't know why I ended up in it. Maybe I like people, you know, that could be something. I love to see people smile and that there are energy in the room. So I think it's my personality.
And what about the changes? If you are still the early 2000s in the startup community, you have noticed the changes of this community. What was your conclusion from these changes? How did startup community in Oslo and Norway change during this 15 years?
Yeah, you know, in Norway it's kind of special because people are kind of wealthy, you know, and we have a very, very good welfare system. Basically, in Norway, you don't need to work. You know, if you don't want to, you can. You don't need to work. You can go on welfare. We call it NAV in Norway. You know, so basically, why should people start up companies? Take all the risk and everything. So what I feel now is most of the people who are starting up companies, they start it because they want to, not because they have to, if you know what I mean. It's like that's been a kind of game changer in Norway. And I think we have to stimulate that even more, like stimulate the students to be entrepreneurs, not necessarily go into the big companies. Another thing that has changed in Oslo is that, as you know, the oil price has been dropping. So, and there's a lot of people who have been kicked out of the big companies, around 40,000 people the last 2 years. So people have been thinking, okay, maybe it's not so safe anymore. Maybe we should do something. And there are also people from these companies who are laid off who also start up their own companies again, you know, but maybe they have good ideas they've been thinking about when they was working in this huge organization. When they are kicked out and get they leave, they start think, okay, maybe I should do things, something about this. So, and I also think for Europe, I think most of the entrepreneurs who are on the scene now, they are driven by a wish to maybe change the world. They think they have an idea that they can benefit the world. They want to do something. Some are also for sure in there for the money, and I think that's a good thing. If you're an entrepreneur, you should be in there for the money. But a lot of these drivers who are going now is like building better apps, building better services for people. You know, that's the big driver now in the entrepreneurial community.
I also wanted to ask you a particular question for Norway, because we already asked American entrepreneurs and British how people look at bankruptcy, at failure in Norway. Because, for example, it's very different if you look at the United States and Britain. In Britain, failure is a big thing. It's a stigma. Bank won't open your account for, I don't know, 5-6 years or something. In the United States, it's completely different. We talked to one investor here, and he basically said, if somebody came to me with ideas and he never failed, I probably won't talk to him. So Americans, they think failure is a part, it's a part of life, part of business.
Experience, actually.
Experience. British is kind of stigma. What about Norway?
Say in Norway we are more of the British attitude. You know, it's not a good thing to fail. You know, like I've been involved in more than 26, I think it's 26 or 27 startups since I started, and 5 of them have gone into bankruptcy, and 2 of these companies went to bankruptcy was kind of holding companies linked to this these other companies, and that's not a good thing in Norway, but I don't care, you know. It's like I understand the system. I know, like in Norway, it's the best way to liquidate the company is to make it go bankrupt. But in Norway, we are not ready for this. But there are a lot of people in Norway who talk about this. I predicted a lot. I said that I'm learning from my failures. And like Edison, who invented the light bulb, he said the same thing, that it was all his mistakes that made him a success in the end. Because you have to test and try, you know, test and try and learn, you know, that's the way you do it. So, but I think in Norway, because people are not willing to take risk, they look envious on people to do it, and if they fail, they laugh and said, "Wasn't it that I said, you're gonna fail?" And then they laugh behind the back of people, But the CEO of Innovation Norway, which is a very important organization in Norway for entrepreneurs, Anita, she said, it's very important that people experience failure because they learn of that. So it's a changing thing, but it goes very, very slow, I can tell you that.
So, but for example, if I have an idea and I had, I don't know, several failure, or maybe several success as well, come to you and tell you, yeah, I did have failure, would you personally talk to me?
Oh, I would love that. Most of the people I do business with are very open. If they aren't open, I will find out anyhow. So if people say honestly, okay, I did this, that didn't go well, then I tried that, it went okay, but we have to close that. Think stories like that. That's very good, because then you know that people are honest, and also that they have tried and they have a drive to want to do it again. So I've been knocked down many times during my life. I always stand up and I go for it again. That kind of spirit. That's what we want to see from entrepreneurs. And the same with investors also. Sometimes you invest, you lose money. Sometimes you invest and you win. That's the way it is. That's the way life is, basically.
Okay, we've just talked about some differences between European and US. What else differences do you see in this startup communities, in the US startup community and in Norway, for example? What are the key differentiators?
Well, I would say, so culture-wise, we are kind of similar. So it's not very difficult for Norwegian entrepreneurs to go to Palo Alto or New York and do business. But I would say that the energy and the speed in the US is much higher. And you really have to push it much harder than you have to do. It's laid back, and so I think maybe that's one of the main differences. And for sure, it's easier to get funding in US for startups. I would say that it's 10 times easier to find an investor in the US than it is to find it in Norway. So that's a kind of sad thing, and we have to solve it.
Okay. Talking about money, we talked to you yesterday just to check some, and you said it's much easier to in terms of financial to bring, I don't know, millions than to bring, say, 100,000. Is it how is it possible?
How it's possible to get more money than less money? Well, because there are more investors who invest in, let's say, venture capital. Because you have seed funding, Series A, and then you go into venture as you go ahead. And it's easier because there are more money there. There are more investors. There are big funds, and they don't invest 100,000. Many of them have a limitation, for instance, of $1 million US or $2 million or whatever. So as soon as you climb up the ladder, and you get, let's say, cash positive, you have your first customers, you generate revenue, stuff like that, then it's getting much easier. It's in the early stage when pre-money, before you have your first customers. Somebody call it the death well, that's a very tough thing. In Norway, we have a very good system. I mentioned it already, called Innovation Norway. So you can get grants that covers some of this money you need in the first phase, up to like $120 US approximately. Next year there will be some loan schemes and stuff like that. So in that sense, Norway is the right place to start, but not necessarily the right place to grow. So because it's not a huge market, we are only 5 million people here, So we should go to Ukraine to grow, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, obviously it's understandable that from financial point, somebody who's in between, who's bank or some financial organization, because they're getting commission. So for them, it's much more interesting to bring, I don't know, 100 million instead of 100,000. It's understandable, but does it actually provoke startup company to inflame the budget?
Well, if I understand the question right, one factor here is that the risk in the early stage is much bigger than when you are, let's say, cash positive and that. So that's a key element here. That's also why there are so few investors in this early stage, because of the tremendous risk, basically. So all the investors, they want to go in when they see it is a success already. So that's one of the problems we have. People want to invest in success. They don't want to invest in too much risk.
Why you decided to invest in so much risk?
Well, I'm also a risk analyst, if you know what I mean. I get 15 to 20 people contacting me every day, so I'm screening and screening. I say no to like 98% of the people who contact me. And then I follow up, let's say, on the last 2%. And sometimes I see that there's something I want to, and I would say from my perspective, it's number one is the people. Let's say the founder and his team. That's one thing I'm quite concerned about. And then I have to believe in the market potential. I don't want to invest in something that's going down. I want to invest in something going to rocket. Maybe it started and it's going to be big. Let's say in 5 years. That's where I'm going to go in, to find these new projects, these new services, these new products that will be really big in 5 years. So, and that's all about timing. So, but I think I don't sit there and go through a lot of elements before I say, okay, I want to go further. When I decide to go further, then I have meetings, we discuss, I get all the documentation, I go through it. I have a lot of dialogue, not only with the entrepreneur, but with the network around him, maybe some other investors who invested already. I try to get the full picture, and then I decide, do I want to engage in this project or not? So, but it's like first 98%, the last 2% I go into that process, and then it's like 3 projects a year or something like that. So it's that's the volume I'm looking at.
And what is your key industries you are tending to invest?
Well, I invested in 3 different industries in the 3 projects I'm involved in right now. So I don't necessarily have any key industry, but let's say most of the projects, they are IT, one way or another involved, like IT projects. I also into a medtech project, but it's also a lot of IT and a lot of technology into that project as well. So it's all about tech, basically, in the end.
Why is it all about IT? Is it your background, technical background, IT, software, something?
I think, if you want to make a better society, a better welfare system, for instance, if you want to build a better welfare system, okay, the politicians have something to say. But most of the new services you will see in the future regarding taking care of older people, for instance, these are tech-based solutions, So it all boils down to that. So, and there's another factor is that most of the project that people are sending to me are tech projects. So that's a big driver these days, no doubt about that.
Yeah, but obviously tech projects, especially when we're talking about IT, it's kind of easy to get in. Basically, what you need to computer and couple of brains, probably. Because if you're in pharmaceutical, it's much more difficult, especially nowadays when it's all the space.
Yeah, I agree on that. That's a good point for sure.
Have you ever invested in service companies, not in tech, but when the core of the business is people?
Yeah, in a way, I would say that it's not a big investment, but it's something I'm engaged in. It's like I believe in that. I talked a little bit about it regarding the welfare system and how, because one of the big problems we have in Norway is that we are getting older here, I'm getting older myself. I don't like it, but what can we do about it? So that's all about making it possible for people to stay home as long as possible, so they don't need to go to war or something like that. So that's a system called Kuragard, which is very, very exciting. I see it.
Berg. And what about, you mentioned that when you search for the projects, how do you search for the projects actually? How do you find this to you guys? Or they are finding you and you're just choosing?
They are. I got a lot of input, you know, on LinkedIn, on email, on Facebook, you know, all these channels, because I'm quite, yeah, I'm out there, so people know about me. So that's one channel. People, they send me, for instance, messages on LinkedIn, and I can tell everybody out there that's not a good idea, because I'm drowning in my inbox is drowning in LinkedIn. So you have to go in LinkedIn and find my email, you know, and then send me an email. That's the best source. But most of the time,
To inflate your inbox, yeah.
yeah, they have to find my inbox.
With all these emails, and yeah, instead of LinkedIn,
Yeah.
they'll all go to your Gmail. So well,
Yeah, but my Gmail, I have full control over my Gmail. You know, I try to empty it every day, and I'm very, very serious about my inbox. It's a high value for me. So I find the project there, and then I go out to events. And I talk to people there. I listen to talks, like I did now in Wolf Summit. I ended up with like 32 potential prospects, and I'm not like screening out, let's say, around 10 of them. And I'm going to boil it down during the next week. I have 2 people helping me a little bit with that, you know, analyzing and getting information about these companies and stuff like that. So I'm boiling it down now. So that's another way, you know, to be actually out there and meeting entrepreneurs. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they think everything is possible to do online. And I don't necessarily believe in that. Yeah, it's okay to be on like Angel List, which is a listing for startups. It's okay to be there because you never know. But you have to be out there where the investors are, at the events. Try to find where the events are, where the investors are going, what kind of events will they participate at, and actually be there and network. And you have to have a long-term perspective. You know, when you are building up a relation with an investor, you don't necessarily should close him the first week. You should also learn the investor, because if you end up with the wrong investor in your project, that can be a catastrophe. So my idea is to always build investor relationships that are long-term, and don't push the investors too much. You know, have a relation and make a system for all the investors. So like a CRM, you know, you build a database of investor, which you update as you go ahead. So like have done it. I have more than 2,000 investors that I'm communicating on directly on my newsletter. Then I have like 8,000 investors, which I communicate with on another list sponsored by Techstar. It's the Angel Investor Startup Digest. So it's like I communicate with like 10,000 investors on a regular basis. And I don't push anything. You know, I just, if there's a project, I put it out there, and people, if they're interested, they come back to me. If there are a project, for instance, which is very interesting for Estonia, just as an example. Okay, then I can pick up the phone and call to 3 or 4 of my friends in Estonia and ask them, you think that could be a project for you? So that's the way how I work. So a kind of continuous thing. It never stops. So, because that's a channel I have for the project I invest in and engage in, is that I know that they will need more money, and maybe they need more money very soon. Okay, then I can be a channel for that and try to help them to get more funding.
Who do you think some companies, they don't really need money? They actually can grow much slower organically, but they don't need investor, because investor is not only good things, it's a responsibility. You have to pay this money with dividends and with share of your companies. Would you agree with that?
100% agree with that. If you don't need investors, forget about it. You know, that's the best thing. Investor can be a pain in the ass.
But it's not necessarily clear from the beginning, especially for startups, because a lot of them, they want to just grow up very, very quickly, get to whereas I don't know, Facebook is and everything. Just imagine the situation. Some guys are clever, good, with great project came to you, but you you think they don't really need investors, they would be better off doing this slowly, but you love the project. Would you get in with your money, or would you just tell them, hey guys, just do it organically?
I would say do it organically. I'm 100% open. Always when we have strategy discussions regarding this, when we discuss strategy in very early phase, for instance, if I see an opportunity that we can do it without money, that's what I recommend. Even
it means you're off the project.
Yeah. But I know if I'm very honest and we find a solution that they don't need investors, they will include me in the project one way or another, if you know what I mean. So it's like, this is all about honesty. You shouldn't bullshit with this entrepreneurs. You have to be very, very honest. That's something that all investors should be very careful about, as I see it.
And have you seen lots of projects that could grow organically during the last decades? Because tech projects, it's very hard for them, especially on the early stages, to grow organically. The cost of tech guys, like software developers, is pretty high. You need to develop the project, make new features, lots of on, and it's a long way till you get the first client. So did you see lots of tech companies that can grow organically? And if yes, please just name the names.
No, to be quite honest, not of the, let's say, high list projects. The project you heard about and everything, you fired up with money, basically. And the reason is very simple. They want to grow very fast, And maybe they are in the market where there are a lot of players who are coming in. So they need this money to grow fast, basically. So I haven't been involved in many projects who have a strategy in the end to grow organically. But a lot of this, let's say, smaller projects that comes to me through the Entrepreneurs Club and Facebook from friends and stuff like that, then I recommend, I say, okay, I think you should try to get in some money. Don't invest too much yourself or from family's money. Try to start it very, very lean and see what's happening. And a lot of the projects who are now growing very fast and are getting a lot of investors on board, they have been starting like a lean startup, where you don't put in a lot of money in the start. And then when you see a kind of explosion and that you understand that the market is there, then you go out and you invest, and maybe you invest more of your own money as well. So a lot of these hyped companies, they are very, very into getting investors on board. That's one of the things they are focusing on, and maybe using as much as 50% of the time, because it takes a lot of time to get in money. So maybe more of these companies should be more focused on revenue instead of running around after investors.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's more about a business approach than startup approach. And when you're choosing the project, you have lots of projects on your list. You don't see the people yet, but you need to choose those you want to see. How do you choose it? So what should be in the pitch presentation or in the cover letter that is catching you?
Wow, it's like, this is all about communication as I see it. And if you get an email, and if it's like, I call it American email, it's like 5 pages, with a lot of information. They are drowning you information, I would, I read 4 lines and then I pop off. If it's not very interesting, the first 4 lines. So it's like, I need this very, very short thing, short and beautiful, personal, that's like, snaps and, okay, that was a cool pitch. Like 2 lines with a URL, and if I click the URL and I see a nice web page or come to a nice LinkedIn profile or something like that, that could trigger me to go in and search for more information. Let's say maybe use 5 minutes, and then, okay, maybe I'm triggered more, and I say, okay, I have another look at this, and then I answer this person and say, okay, so because I also have a system, if people want to talk to me, I just send them a link, and then they can book a Skype with me by themselves, which is kind of cool. So, and I always put in something so that they are triggered, So most of the times when I send an email like that, I get the Skype call. So then you get like 15, 20 minutes, and then you are basically starting this evaluation process. Most of the time, that's the way it is. So don't send me long emails. No, short ones, beautiful ones.
Okay, guys, don't send the long emails to Berg Moe. Berg, as an investor, you have some plan in your head. Nothing goes according to plan. We know that. Just imagine you have a plan to invest your money. You expect, I don't know, at this point of time, something, and it's not happening. How long are you gonna wait? Or you just said, that's enough. I got my what I lost already. That's it. I'm off. How long would you? Or would you still say, okay, let's give them a second chance, couple of more months, extra money?
Well, I should be writing it on the wall basically here when I'm speaking, because what I've been doing is that I've been too kind, to both two projects I've been involved with, but other projects as well. So what I want to write on the wall is cut earlier when you see that things are going bad, because it's very, very difficult to get the recovery. It can be very, very tough. I tried it myself in my own project, and it's like, wow, so you can save a year, with less worries. Just pull out the plug and try again, basically. So, but it's like also there has to be some struggle. There's a balance, if you give up too early, that's not good. If you give up too late, that's not good. So it's a kind of find this balance thing. But I've always pushed it too long with the project I've been involved with. So I learned from that. Hopefully, I write it on the wall right now. Yeah, okay, right. Go out.
Your experience, when you let it go a little bit longer, is it any of success happen? I mean, if you would pull the plug, it's finished, but you let it go for a couple of more months. Your experience, did you recover any? How many times? No.
None.
Okay.
No. When shit hits the fan, it's really tough. So it's all about having that kind of growth, that you're going in the right direction basically all the time. So instead of going like this and then boom, it's better, to find also the balance in the growth, so you don't need to take too much risk, so it's a balance game. Hopefully I'll get better in this during the years. So, but for instance, I had one project which was very, very promising. It was in 2003, and we were traveling all over Europe. We got over 20 letters of intents. We were very progressive. We have between 7 to 14 meetings a day. We ended up with a huge contract in Estonia, and an investor from Russia who wanted to invest in us. Big money and stuff like that. But I went back to Norway, and I got a lot of problems with my investors here. Because they said, we don't want to invest in Russian mafia. Because Norway, they are like that. They're very conservative. And maybe in that days, it was also a little bit more, I would say it's even more problematic than it is now. So then we ended up in a kind of struggling thing, which lasted a year. With like back and forth between investors and everything. And in the end, I just gave up, and I took out the plug. But if earlier, when I got all these problems coming up, instead of fighting it for 1 year, I could have fulfilled that opportunity I had in Russia, because I could just have pulled out the plug and restarted it and go ahead, basically. So it's a hard time.
Okay, so giving up earlier is even sometimes better than trying to break the wall, actually. It's interesting because Americans think totally different. They think, okay, you should break the wall, and the opportunities will meet you there. So what about the investors, the startup side of the wall? What advices would you give to the startup how to choose the right investor? Because you were talking on how you're choosing the startup, but for them, they need to choose the right investor.
Yeah, that's a very good question, extremely good question. Well, I think you have to see what the investor has done before, see if they have invested in other startups, and maybe talk to people in the other startups that they have been involved in. For sure, use LinkedIn and see their network. Also screen them out, do the same thing as investors do when they screen out entrepreneurs. Go online, check out, the income and all this official information and all this stuff, and try to find key people around the investor. And number one, see if you like the guy. Try to go to an informal meeting, not necessarily drink a lot of alcohol and be drunk with the investor or stuff like that, because that could be a bad thing, But go out and meet and have a chat and on formal ways as well, and try to learn the investor. And I would prefer an investor, if I'm a startup, that has deep pocket, that I can also invest a second time, if you know what I mean. Because if you get an investor on board who risk all this money investing only in you, then you can be basically in deep shit as soon as you get problems, and there will be problems. Then they will have all this energy go into that. So try to find an investor who is nice, have done good things before, want to involve in the project, have a lot of network, and that you can communicate with. I think that are the key elements.
Great advice. It will definitely help to lots of startups. And changing the topic a little bit, and let's talk about the trends actually. What about the trends you see that are going on in startup community in Norway right now? And what are your predictions for the nearest 5 years? How will the angel environment and the startup environment change in the nearest future?
Well, I think that the angel environment will get better because it's a lot of focus on this. There's also one thing that happened recently, only a few days ago here. It was a lot of famous people who went out and said that we need to do something with the taxation system. They had like 12 bullet points they were focusing on. And they also want to say that we should use more of the oil fund to support startups. I think it's a lot of good things happening in Norway. So it's going to be interesting to follow and see. But my focus is not only Norway. I want to do business also in Estonia, for instance, in Ukraine. I'm going to Zagreb to hold the keynote in Mars, for instance. So I want to travel Europe a little bit and see where I'm heading. I want to have my main activities in Oslo, but I also want to do stuff abroad, basically, and also have some activities in the US as a go-ahead. But my home base will be Oslo.
So we can look for you as a guest in Kyiv startup community as well?
I would love to go there and do something, and I think I will. So because of iHub and everything, so I'm for sure I will be there for the official opening. So you can come and join me there. So I will keep you posted with that when that comes up. I think it's going to be a big celebration there.
Great, that will be a great opportunity for us to meet in person with. And cool. Ending up the conversation, I will ask you the question we ask every angel investor. If you meet a startup on early stage, what 3 advices will you give him or her to make them more productive and more successful? Berg?
You talk about US now, to bring a project to the US. Well, that was, the way I see it. If you're a company, for instance, a startup from Eastern Europe or Ukraine, there's a very interesting thing happening now in New York. It's called the Starta Accelerator, which is Russian money. It's really, really nice people from Russia and Ukraine who is behind that. The last round they did, after they had the demo day, the companies got more than $20 million invested. So what I want to see is a kind of bridge between, let's say, Ukraine, Estonia, to the US through New York, because I think New York is more interesting than Palo Alto. Seattle is more interesting than Palo Alto. And the reason I'm saying that is that, it's a lot of tech things going on in Palo Alto, but like New York City is the media and tech hub now, as I see it in the US. And both Seattle and Midwest and Minneapolis have interesting environments. For instance, Minneapolis regarding medtech. Boston regarding biotech. They also have MIT and stuff like that. So I want to see a bridge between Europe and US, not necessarily to Palo Alto. And I think there is a lot of opportunities for companies from Eastern Europe to come to Norway to like incubate or accelerate for a while before they go, for instance, to the US. So that's also a thing I want to see. We also are working on getting more companies interested in investing in Eastern Europe, especially in Ukraine, because one thing is the war is going on. It's interesting to invest during the war. But what I mean is that it's a huge market and it has a huge potential. So I think the timing could be extremely right to do something also in Ukraine. So I hope we'll see something there as well. So it's all about having this kind of thing, you know, where maybe projects from Norway, they are flying to Kiev, maybe landing at iHub and rolling out the projects and services in Ukraine. You have companies from Ukraine come to Oslo, maybe doing Scandinavia from Oslo, then going to New York, starting the business over there. So if we can get that flow, then that will be a happy 5-year thing for me, you know. So I hope that will happen.
Yeah, it's a great note to finish our conversations, more or less what time we had today. Everyone who watched us, we had Berg Moe from Oslo, from Norway, and everyone who got brilliant ideas and tech, they can contact Moe using his email.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Email, and definitely even more if they are from Ukraine, Estonia, Russia, or any other Eastern European country with brilliant tech idea, they should come to accelerate in Oslo with Berg Moe and then come to the New York. Yeah, it's a great plan.
Using Norway government
grants.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all into that. Let's use some of the oil money, okay? I love that.
Okay, guys, we're going off the air. If you want to contact us, you can use the landing page. If you want to contact Berg Moe, you can contact him through the LinkedIn, or you can float his inbox. Okay, guys, thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.